I'm Erik Gutshall with the Arlington County Board.
I'm Marta Layseca, founder and owner of EnviroHome Design, and we are a design and build specialized on residential sustainable design and construction.
Hi, my name is Miriam Gennari. I'm the owner of Metro Makeover, LLC, a real estate company in Arlington, Virginia, and the host of the Sustainable Scoop. Now, join us in conversation. The Community Energy Plan in 2013. I think that's the first time I heard the discussion. I attended a few meetings, lots of people that I admire, lots of complicated conversation. I met the business manager of Covanta Energy and I learned about our waste to energy plant as well as a lot of other things, and since then I've been eager to see the outcome, or actually when it will come, that we will have a sustainable community energy plan. So I'm excited to see it roll out again.
Definitely, and community energy plan is wonderful. It's something that it needs to be planned accordingly with the umbrella of sustainability, that especially on the residential sector. And when we upgrade and update our old homes that we love so much, that we need to upgrade, and then the energy conservation strategies is the key to start, and then from there we can grow into the solar panels and alternative energy.
That's absolutely true. I think when I think about the environmental movement, and when I first joined the environmental movement as an undergrad student, there was the energy aspect of it was certainly an important component, but there was lots of talk about the way we do agriculture, the way we manage our water resources. And I think what we've seen, what at that point was just termed global warming, has now become really about the climate crisis, and how much we've learned, how much the data have shown of what was a concern is now way beyond just merely a concern. So I think that our community energy plan is being updated right at the time when I feel, at least for the first time in my entire adult life, that actually everyone is awake, everyone is paying attention, everyone sees how the anecdotal evidence of what's happening with climate, these dots are being connected and the data are showing that we really, really are running out of time and we have to take action. And so I'm looking forward to us being able to take the kind of bold action that Arlington has been known for, but really stepping it up a notch, frankly, because we have to.
Absolutely. I think that the question is, are we ready to invest? And really to invest in a future that we don't know how quickly it's going to change. I think it's interesting that our goals have increased since 2013 because the reality has changed and things are happening a lot faster. And so to pretend that we can all get away with a solar panel solving the problems, that's not the case, is it, Martha?
Well, this is one of the aspects of a way of thinking. So sustainability is a way of thinking. How do we approach the reality that we would like to improve? So the connection between all these aspects related to each other is a key. And in residential renovations and additions of our old homes, the application of energy conservation strategies to conserve as much energy as we are able is the first step and is the key. And I work with the Arlington Green Home Choice Program, which is an umbrella of all the aspects related to a renovation, and one of them is energy, but the energy is related to all the other components.
So the Green Home Choice Program, which I know you've done many projects under that, has been really successful in terms of, it's been more successful than what we had originally modeled and hoped for. And so that means that we are further along in some regards based on the 2013 plan, but we're yet not far enough along based on the new science, which says that we really need to get to net carbon neutral by the year 2050 if we're to have any hope of keeping global warming down to 1.5 degrees Celsius on average global wide, which means we need you to work even harder with your clients to bring even more people into the program, because it really is, and to your point, Miriam, I think the idea that you can have a home that just has, it might meet code for efficiency. You've got an insulation where you're supposed to have insulation. You have weather stripping around your doors and windows and all that. But if it's really just the bare minimum of what code says, and you might drive a Prius, but that doesn't mean that you ultimately have the kind of sustainable footprint that we really need to get every Arlingtonian to.
Yeah, and you're going to save money, but that shouldn't be your motivation anymore. I think that at one point we were looking at saying, okay, well, how much is the cost of my heating bill going to be adjusted with these new windows? If I add a little bit more insulation, is that going to make it more efficient for me in the summertime? But ultimately, all of the strategies, daylighting, solar panels, if you can, geothermal, the way that you manage your water systems, we have to start looking at everything we do as a system, even a walkability score. Even what that means to have a person get up in the morning, have coffee at home, and walk to the office, the amount of energy that conserves should all be quantified. And we should be able to get a premium for that, while at the same time not leaving people behind and making it so they can't be in our area because they can't afford to be here. Their homes should be walkable. Their homes should be energy efficient. And I think Arlington is trying to offer some of those programs, but there's just not enough urgency or information. And I'm hoping this plan's going to change that.
And I hope that the program, the Arlington Green Home Choice, is the only county on the surrounding area, DC, Maryland, and the rest of Virginia, that is free for the citizens in Arlington. And it's a wonderful tool to be able to address the general aspects of the home, and when the homeowners make decisions, what that means to make decisions in each of the area that is going to help the whole to improve the completion of the project, and as a learning tool. That's what I like. It is an umbrella where the community is able to see the scoring sheets with a list of variables of all the decisions that they will have to make. And I dream for Arlington County to be able to have some incentives, real incentives, something that is going to attract the people, because that's how it works. Sustainability has to mean economic benefit, right? As all the benefits of sustainability, economic, it has to be one of them. So attract the people to the sustainable programs in Arlington, I think is going to be the key. It's been happening with commercial. With commercial, you can build a more square feet than the minimum, but we don't have any incentives on residential.
Well, I actually think the accessory dwelling is a perfect opportunity to incentivize. If you're going to let people build additional area on their properties that might not have been there to increase affordable housing, why not make them net zero? Why not set some real aggressive goals for those perks? The same way that I think that these new buildings that are going up should have charging stations for all of the cars. I mean, 80% of every parking garage should be plug-in. Not only would that spur economic growth in terms of, purchases of cars, but it would also make us feel much more comfortable as we get more dense. And to add to that energy part of it, I mean, energy comes with emissions. Nothing's for free. So we have to recognize that this community energy plan is not just conservation, it's saving our lives, it's saving our breath. And so we have to have that sense of urgency.
Yeah, but just have all our homes solar ready. Energy conservation structure is solar ready. So then we
what does it take to be solar ready?
Panel. It takes to apply energy conservation strategies on every single aspect of the construction, the design and the construction of the homes.
So it has to be planned in up front.
It had to be planned during the design process, so then it had to make it real during the construction, and then we can monitor it later. And then if we lower, this is why the amount of energy that the house needs for the occupants to feel comfortable, for sure, right?
And the and if the envelope is very, very close, then you can think about things like green walls. Everything has to be part of the plan, and that I think is true for residential, and it should be true for the commercial properties as well. You may not be able to do it right now, but you should make sure that the infrastructure is in place so that when somebody does put in a solar panel, or we do these little island district energy hubs that I've heard talked about, that it's actually going to help these homes become neutral.
Definitely. The key is, how do we attract the people that doesn't know what sustainability can provide and can benefit to them and their families?
How do you get them to choose it?
How to get them to the point of saying, oh, if I have my home certified by the Arlington Green Home Choice Program, my building permit fee is lower, for example.
That's an excellent point. That's a good
then
incentive.
Lower or nothing. That will be ideal, because everybody is going to start looking, okay, what is it that I have to do? And then when they learn what they can do, they will see that they are going to benefit, their children are going to benefit in the future,
yes,
and that's where we want to go.
Yes, that shows them that there's a real investment.
So it had to be something like it's in commercial, something concrete.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to actually try to take this a slightly different direction, because I can agree in principle that we need some hook, right? We need some incentive to get people to come in. But I think that if you really want to achieve the kind of scale that we need, it would be one thing if we were to say, for the leading edge, for folks that want to come in and do a really exceptional green home choice project, okay, you don't have to pay your building permit fee. But if what we really want is we want every project to be a green project, well then pretty soon you've got nobody paying for building permit fees, and we don't have any way to pay the people who then process those permits. So that to me is not, it's a way to bring the early adopters in. It's not actually a strategy for the long term. I would love to know, Miriam, since you're in the real estate profession, how you feel that the market, meaning when somebody goes to buy a house, I've never heard of anyone walking up in the attic and looking and saying to their wife and saying, oh my God, honey, you got to come up here and see how great the insulation is in this attic. I think I would like to pay a little more for this house, because I know, or how many people, you can get a home inspector to come out, but how many people really actually have a way, and do we have the information out there where the utilities will release the information so that you could go and look at that property and not only get a walkability score, but get a score that says this is what the utilities are for this house. And therefore, if the utility bills are much lower because they've made those investments, could we also then work with our mortgage industry, and that you would qualify for a slightly higher mortgage because the mortgagors know that you're paying less for utilities, therefore you can afford to pay more for your house.
And that is why Arlington attracts tech giants, because that is the kind of innovation that is necessary. Years ago, I was selling a house that gives you a Zestimate score, right? How much the house was worth, and it said 1.6, and my seller wanted 3.7. So how do we get there, right? So I had an energy audit done. We went through the books, we confirmed all the paperwork, we checked all the details, the appliances. When I took that information and I put it into the MLS, it jumped to 3.1. How does that happen? Nobody, well, granted, that's probably extreme. I was shocked. But ultimately, to take an older house and bring it to the level of sustainability that one was built is difficult. So I have a friend that just started a business called Realty Sage. And what they do is they take all of this data and they aggregate it. And so if they do invest in a green choice home and they do recognize that what they've done. I can tell you also, customers, they'll show off their entire house, tell you about every window, tell you about their heating and cooling system, not even mention the wallpaper or the paint.
Because they get excited.
The daylighting, and explain to you what it means. So I had the pleasure of selling sustainability professor Dan Scleroux's house. It had the original kitchen, it had the original bath, I think pink tile. And it sold, I mean, you can look it up, but it sold for a lot of money. And the reason was because everything that Dan did, he and his wife did to that house, had to do with closing the envelope, making it more sustainable, more energy efficient. And if your realtor knows about that and understands the value, we can change the tile.
Yeah, but in another hand, this is happening, but in another hand, we had to do something before they make a decision. Because when they get to the building permit, to get the building permit inside the county, they already make lots of decisions.
Yeah, and they
so
are big consumers.
How do we catch them?
Well,
how do we catch them so when they apply for a sustainable renovation
So
and
I want to
addition?
expand the base again here, because more than half of our residents in Arlington are renters, not owners, right? So far we've been talking about owners and what can people who own their home, what can we do to help them to make the better decision to invest? What can we do? How do we incorporate the renters? And so what can we do to help renters who would also benefit from lower utility bills, who also want to be part of a sustainable community and part of the solution?
That will be like the egg of the chicken, because the owners have to make a decision on the investment.
So how do we help the owners make that decision? Do you work with, have you worked on any rental properties?
With people that they are interested on lowering, but not on multifamily. That's another.
Yeah.
That's another.
Whole other beast.
Yes.
Well, I think those guys
Yes.
definitely should be
Multifamily
incentivized.
is
Also incentives, because
through
they-
commercial, the commercial incentives.
Exactly. I think that to motivate somebody who's got all their renters paying the utilities is going to be a challenge. But if there was a way that you could offer them a reduced tax rate or an opportunity to increase density based on, and I think Arlington is actually doing some of that in terms of the buildings that go up. You can do some exchange for LEED silver.
We have a bonus density program that is available for when a project is redeveloping. But we have an awful lot of that's if you're tearing it down and basically building new.
Yes.
We have an awful lot of housing stock that is older,
existing.
and I don't think that we would want all of that torn down. And I think that so therefore we need to find a way that encourages those owners, and it's what's called the split incentive, right?
Right.
The owner says, well, I don't pay the utility bill, so why do I want to invest in a higher efficiency HVAC? If it's time to replace the heating and cooling, am I going to spend 10 or 15 or 20% more to be more efficient, when really it's my renter who pays the utility? And then I come back to my belief is it's all about information. If I'm going out to rent somewhere and find a place to rent, how often and how easy is it, does someone ask, or can you find out what are the utility bills here? So I think if you could use the market force, because if everybody knew, just like when you go to buy a car.
But I don't know, they don't have a choice. There's not enough to choose.
When you go to buy a car and you see on the sticker on the window that says this is the miles per gallon this car gets, and then you can decide for yourself, what does that mean to you, what does that matter, and you can do the math for yourself. Right now, if I'm somebody that's just moved to Arlington, just coming to Arlington, and I go look at an apartment in Ballston, and I go look at another apartment over on Columbia Pike, and I'm trying to decide between the two and where do I want to go, and all other factors being equal about what neighborhood you want to live in. But if I wanted to know, well, what is my utility bills going to be? You can ask, but oftentimes, you probably know this, building owners, they sort of shirk the question.
Everybody's different.
It's kind of, oh, that depends on how you use it, etc. We need to provide information. I think if you provide that information, it becomes a market force. Now, whether that fundamentally shifts, I think that's where then you need to look at what are the incentives and how do you fundamentally shift the market, but we got to provide information.
I think that I agree with that.
And like the density in commercial, what will be something similar on the residential then? That's the key. What can we do kind of with the same effect that you are looking for that is happening in commercial? What is it that we can do on residential? Because let's say that you have a block, right? A real estate value. You have a block and you have 2 homes or 3 homes for sale. If you go and visit the 3, probably the 3 are going to be beautiful. But then if you look a little bit more and they have a certification, if they have an Arlington Green Home Church certification, one of them, and the other one 2 doesn't, and that shows. The key is how do we include that on the appraisal quality, right? On that home. So when you show that home, you show the certificate, what that means, and then you have the variable. The people are going to start looking and they will see that that is an upgrade of the code versus the other 2 homes. So then they are going to be more desirable. So they will sell that home first.
And sometimes you can deed that along with the deed of the house.
Deed of
so
the house.
A Pearl certification is something that I give at closing so that they can take with them, and they can take it to their bank and get a
So that desirability is going to be very important on the real estate market.
Yes. Yes.
And then the people are going to be looking today at what is the Arlington Green Home Choice program that is an upgrade to the code. And then what that means is that the code is going to keep growing, but my house is going to be ahead of the game.
I think the Green Choice program should work also then in commercial, because when you walk in the door, you want to know who you're doing business with. The things that are added on after the fact, maybe it's not.
There is a green building. It's a green building.
Right. But I'm saying that from ground up, that's an investment. I'm saying there are things that you can do. There are restoration projects. Just recently, Cherrydale made their old fire station more energy efficient by taking the windows out and resealing them up again without having to throw them away. So there are jobs in that kind of residential commercial upgrade that I think also would be very helpful. I think offering, if the county were willing to go into these buildings and do a training program and upgrade each individual apartment as you move through, you'd have a wonderful program for people who are looking for different types of jobs, and at the same time you'd be closing that envelope in those buildings.
Amen. Miriam, the thing that is so important, because we were talking a little bit about this earlier, Marta, right? That you have this, all of these different issues. These are very complex issues, right? Like even the notion of if we were to make the accessory dwellings that they had to be net zero.
Net zero.
In an ideal world, that's what we would want, right? But if that would severely limit the number of accessory dwellings that we actually got, then we would be back to not really solving the housing issue, which that is meant to help address. And likewise, so when you talk about jobs, that's more of a positive synergy, where instead of being competing, instead of having a conversation about if you have off-site solar, is that solar using up land that really ought to be natural space or et cetera. When you're talking about jobs, you do have this opportunity where it's win-win, where you're creating great jobs for people that need them in the neighborhoods where they live, so they're not having to commute to jobs. They can work where they are. We have lots and lots of housing stock. Even if we got started tomorrow, it would take us decades to retrofit all of the housing stock that we have, and we do need to start today. And we do need to retrofit all of that housing, and I think that's what's so cool about this plan, is it really lays out this big picture, higher order goals of this is what we want to do. It has to be done in the context of all of the other things that we try to do in Arlington.
But I think from the ground up, though, we should be going for the gold. I heard the other day that, with the roof space on most buildings, the solar is really not going to have as much an impact as it would if it was like a big school or a big office park. And I understand that. But I think we're at the point now where we have to go fast and we also have to go furious. at the attack. So yes, it may slow down growth in some ways, but I think what we need to do is pace our growth with our willingness to build the future sustainable cities. We shouldn't be now, from this point forward, looking at, oh gosh, this is an extra that we want to build. So we want density, we want urban living, we want sustainability. That's got to be the platform that we build on. Now, all of these other things, and we're not going to tear down these buildings overnight, I agree. Huge opportunity. Education is a critical part. And I hope that that's something that's going to come along with the energy plan, because, you know, if people push a button, and Demetra McBride said something the other day, she said, you know, I want to show them the cost of not doing something. I want an app where you can just push a button and you can see where sea level is going to be, and you can see what the heat effect is going to be in your community if you don't have any permeable space, or if we lose tree canopy. If people realize that, I think that they'll be less concerned about the county. In fact, they'll want us to invest.
But in another hand, we have to provide the information, because if the people get desperate but they don't know what to do,
yeah, they have to know.
We have to be clear that there are options today. And every decision that you make to renovate your home, your kitchen, your bathroom, your home, if it is sustainable and it's a way of thinking, every decision will have a goal. And that's very clear. And if they don't know what to do, it doesn't matter exactly about that decision, but if they know the goal, they will be able to find the solution. What is the decision that is more sustainable for the overall project that I am going to have, right? That the information and is needed. How we can show that we have a program, we have an Arlington County Green Home Choice.
And democratize the information so that
we
everyone
have, because the
gets
people
it.
doesn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do we get to our community today about a program that is more than 10 years old and make it? You see, because
I
it's
think it's
there.
through conversations like this.
Exactly.
Right?
It's
and
there.
through every client that you've ever worked with, they talk to their friends and coworkers and neighbors.
And they talk on the school, and they talk when they go to the doctor. And
meanwhile, we have the Community Energy Plan, which gives an opportunity for everyone to take a deep breath, to acknowledge that we have a lot of work in front of us, but we also have real solutions that have real impact.
Yes.
And we can do it.
We can do
yes.
it. We can do
if we collaborate.
Yes, absolutely. Sustainability is an umbrella.
Collaboration.
Yes. Good conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.